How you doing? It's the radio guy, Mike Prince. Welcome to this special edition of the Mike Prince Show. As you may be aware, we lost a legend in the likes of Clem Daniels this past weekend. And as I was reflecting back, I recall that we were fortunate enough to have possibly the last known radio interview with our beloved brother. Leonard Moon, myself, and Brother Daniels were able to reflect during the storm delay, and I'm going to share with you some of that interview on today. I pray that the words would resonate not only to PV Nation but to any HBCU supporter that hears the wisdom and the passion that was being laid at the feet of Brother Moon and myself from our beloved Clem Daniels. Enjoy today's show.
Now, Clem, you have had a hands-on approach with your alma mater, Prairie View A&M University, and the athletic department as well. But for that newer Panther fan, catch them up on your days as the national alumni president, and some of your highlights you reflect back on that service to this university.
Well, I finished my 4-year term as national president in 2005, and it was a wonderful experience for me. And one of the primary reasons that I finally came back to Texas was that I promised Coach Nix, who was my coach here at Prairie View, that I would come back after my business is slowed down and I divested many of the responsibilities I had in California. I'd come back and help them to put together a program that would be creditable, and whereas we could start the winning tradition, maintain the winning tradition here at Prairie View.
Now, Clem, a lot of newer Panther fans see Coach William Nix's name across a lot of these athletic venues. You played for the legendary Prairie View coach.
Yes.
What can you tell us about Coach Nix that these newer fans need to know about?
The primary thing, the most significant thing about Coach Nix is that he invested in people of honor, people who had integrity, people who had the abilities. A lot of the people, everybody on this coaching staff my senior year here was a previous head coach at some other university or college. But he said that he didn't worry about that. He said as long as they treated him fairly, and as long as they were honest with him, they showed them the max in terms of integrity, he was willing to bring them in because they had a lot to contribute to his program. And as a result of that, he was always successful. You know, he won 4 national championships while he was here, and he won 4 consecutive SWAC championships while he was here, along with about 4 more. So he did a magnificent job here at Prairie View, and his record will stand in infamy forever. No question about that.
We're visiting with one of the greatest football players in the history of Prairie View A&M University, Clem Daniels. As you said that, Clem, I thought about an interview I did with Eddie Robinson, the late great Grambling head football coach.
Yes.
And he mentioned to me that Billy Nix used to kick his behind regularly like he stole something. I mean, talk about the days when you guys, if I could use this expression, owned Grambling.
You know what? A lot of people don't understand that, and a lot of people don't believe that. But it came to pass because, Coach Eddie Robinson was very instrumental in getting his ball players into the National Football League. There's no question about that. But it didn't mean he had the best teams at Grambling. Because we put the hurting on him a lot during my tenure and even before my tenure and after my tenure here at Prairie View. But he had a great program. He was a great coach within his own right. There's no question about that. He did a magnificent job. I had the honor to sit with him. They put me into the SWAC Hall of Fame in 1992 down in New Orleans, and I had the chance. We were sitting together at that dinner, and I had a chance to really get to know him and to really pump him to get a lot of the expertise and knowledge that he had in terms of football. And he was just a magnificent person, a magnificent coach. And every coach, every player that ever played for Eddie Robinson revered him and still do to this day, just as we all have done to Coach Nix.
Well, Clem and Mike, we have another weather delay. We saw some lightning out there in the distance, and of course NCAA regulations mandate that anytime there's lightning within a certain radius of the football game must be halted.
Yes, sir. It's a 4-mile radius that is done. They do that on the UIL level for the high schools as well. So anytime it's within a 4-mile radius, and you got the weather indicating that we're going to possibly have another storm. But I always say, Coach Clem, if you allow me to say it that way, it doesn't rain in Prairie View. I know they say it doesn't rain in California, but it doesn't rain in Prairie View.
All right.
It'll come for a season, and it'll matriculate on down the road.
Yes.
Well, Clem, you picked a perfect time for us to really have the proper conversation with you now that we're in a weather delay. For the Panther fans may have just tuned in, we're in the midst of our second weather delay. It's 36 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Texas Southern leading Prairie View by a score of 7-3. Our guest is Clem Daniels, one of the greatest players in the history of Prairie View A&M University. This gentleman went on to an illustrious National Football League career, a former National Alumni Association president, and a guy that's been a big contributor to the athletic program probably ever since he left this university. This gentleman also played for the legendary Prairie View football coach Billy Nix. Now, Clem, to win a national championship, man, we're talking about the whole country. And we're talking about you guys competing against football players that did not have the opportunity to go to white universities yet. So you had this deluxe or the surplus of talent on HBCUs like Prairie View, like Grambling that you talked about a second ago, Jackson State, Texas Southern, etc. But talk about that trek, man, to actually become the best team in the country during the time that your greatest black players were going to black schools.
It's true, no question about it. I've been asked that question many times in regards to that. And I always say, I know one guy from Sports Illustrated asked me the question many years ago. He said, what was it like being at Prairie View during the mid-50s and the late 50s when you were in school? I said, well, if you take a Clem Daniels and a Gale Sayers, and you take guards like Jim Otto, centers and guards, linemen, and the top linemen in the National Football League when they were in college. I said, that's how it was at Prairie View when I was at Prairie View. We had 180 guys out for the team my freshman year at Prairie View. Had two teams, A section and B section. Had 80 guys and in one group and 80 in another group. There was 160 guys out there. And we used to run sprints the first week we were there. Johnny Payton was the captain of the team that year. Okay. And he said, fullback, step forward. I stepped forward and I looked to my right. There was about 8 or 9 guys. I looked to my left. It was about 10 or 12 guys. I said, we didn't have these guys on my high school football team. But when it said set, go, and I ran about 30 yards, and I looked to my right, and I saw one guy. I looked to my left, and I didn't see anybody. I said, well, I'm in pretty good stead.
So you're in pretty good stead.
I'm in pretty good stead. But we had a lot of talent here at Prairie View. Coach Nix, there's one thing about Coach Nix. Coach Nix made sure that the cream of the crop he had, but he made sure all of them graduated.
Yes,
made
sir.
sure that we were commanded to get good grades, to maintain ourselves academically. And I'll tell you just how strong that was under Coach Nix. And in 1988, when Prairie View cut their football program,
yes, sir.
Texas A&M was very concerned about their program up there. They had just hired Jackie Sherrill, and they were trying to find out how they could get a corner on the black athletes in the state of Texas. But what they found out was that 70% of all the black high school coaches in the state of Texas were Prairie View graduates.
Yes, sir.
And that's a testimony, and that's a testament to the quality of athletes that we had here at Prairie View from an academic standpoint. And as far as athletics, it was the best in the world. Now, you couldn't have asked for a more competitive group of athletes when I was here. In fact, I came in here from a single A school. We had a double A and triple A schools here. The teams in Phyllis, Wheeling, San Antonio, and Jack Yates, and Phyllis, and Wheeling and Houston, this kind of thing. But Coach Nix knew that just because you went to a larger school didn't mean that you were the best athlete.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And he had people, coaches out here, high school coaches, that he could pick up the phone and call. Said, this boy you got up there, I want him at Prairie View. He didn't even have to leave his office. He knew you could get him.
Yes, sir.
Because he had the children out here, and the players who had graduated from Prairie View and who had coaching high school, their first loyalty was to Prairie View.
Yes, sir.
And that was an outstanding testament to him and the job that he had done. So, and as a result of that, we were able to maintain the competitive edge from all the historic HBCU schools across the Southern Belt and all the Midwest and the Eastern Seaboard, Morgan State and all of those schools.
Yes,
so
sir.
we were able to compete, and SWAC was the strongest conference in the country as far as HBCU schools that right up to today. No question about that. Still is.
Now, Coach, you hit on something just a while ago. I came to Prairie View in 1988.
Okay.
So I was actually a part of that change, if you will.
Right.
And as a student athlete here myself, I played baseball, and I was all-conference baseball player. Mm-hmm. And I can remember them gathering us together and telling us that we're going to be at a challenge. At that time, our athletic budget for every sport on this campus was $800,000.
Yes.
Which is nothing. It's absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But I remember being a young communications major and everything, and I was really adamant at the time. They were boasting a university down the road, University of Houston, and how they did this big write-up in the Houston Chronicle at that time about how they were leading the state of Texas with a 56% student-athlete graduation rate.
Yeah.
I wrote this beautiful essay, at least I thought it was a beautiful essay, and talking about how we had 78% student graduating, and we were working under harsh conditions, but because we love this university, we love to compete, we were still producing productive people. Never got a response back. I can remember being a young man, unfortunately, you're a Raiders fan, I was a Steelers fan, and I can remember my dad giving me the Steelers roster. At that time, you were on a team, and you stayed on that team for a long time.
Yes.
And he would have me look through the teams on the NFL, and there were a lot of HBCU schools that these rosters were filled up with. Some schools I had never heard of.
Yes.
And he was saying, you don't have to go to these big places to be seen.
That's right.
He said the quality that you want to do is pull an education out of this thing, which is why, for me personally, when I hear the school song, I know the blood, sweat, and tears that it took to get us to that point, and I can't help but get emotional sometimes, not to the point where I'm hysterical or anything, but the pride that comes with putting on that purple and gold.
I knew from the start, from my first day here, what it took in order to establish and maintain the true tradition of this institution, and we've always striven to maintain that. Even when I left and I came back in 1988 to help to reestablish this program, then I realized that in order for us to do a maximum job of reestablishing that program, we had to have the maximum support of the National Alumni Association. And after a year of trying to put that together, that link together, I realized that I had to have more control. So that's when I ran for the national president of the Alumni Association.
Yes, sir.
And I won. I ran and I won. And after that, we put together a strategic plan to get the major chapters across the country of the Prairie View Alumni Association to support us. And we set objectives for each chapter: D.C., here in Houston, Dallas, Chicago, and about 7 chapters, whereas they would raise extra number of dollars for us to increase the scholarship. And within 3 years, we increased the scholarships from 15 scholarships to 65 scholarships.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And from that point on, and then we got the support of other institutions in terms of recruiting and this kind of thing, and we brought the program back. And then we hired Henry Frazier, who we felt was the best applicant person for that head coaching job. And I had a lot of Prairie View people that didn't want us to hire Frazier because they wanted to hire Prairie View man.
Because they say he was a Yankee.
Yeah. So but I told them, I said, look, I don't care where he went to school. I don't care where he's from.
Yes,
I said,
sir.
what I want to know is, can he coach?
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
if he can coach, he's the man that I want. And after doing an analysis there in terms of the Final Four, we selected Henry Frazier and Charles McCullum was here as our athletic director at the time, so we were able to put all of that together and put the pieces together, and we hired him. And after the third year, he was contending for the conference championship.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir.
But it's that kind of innovativeness, it's that kind of dedication. And I know the first year I took over as national president of the Alumni Association, I made 14 trips down here out of my pocket, because we didn't have the money in the alumni budget to do it, so I had to spend my money to do it. But I didn't hesitate to do it. But we put together the deal, and we put together the program, and we were able to bring this program back, and we've been on the runs ever since.
Yes, sir. Now, I too am a member of the National Alumni Association, lifetime member, but I still pay dues and support wherever needs to be done.
Right.
Being that you were on the inside of this track, if you will, and a lot of people are seeing this stadium right now, and they're taking this collective sigh of relief right now, thinking that it's really done. But really, the work is just beginning.
Just beginning.
And what's the message that you give? Because the challenge that I'm pretty sure that is nationwide, we're Prairie View proud. We're Prairie View strong. Over 60,000 graduates from this university, and there's a challenge of getting them to give back like they should. What would be your Macedonia cry right now?
Numbers count. You have to have maximum participation from all alums across this country in order to maximize our potential here at Prairie View. There's no question about it. We're not even close to where we should be. We're not even close where we have to be in order to make this thing a success. So we just have to keep hampering on the idea that every alum must give back, must get involved, must participate. And in order for us to do that, we have to get out in the community and come up with a strategic plan to go to all four corners of this country to pick our alumni and to impress upon them the importance of participating, because it's very essential that we do. I'll give you a good story in regard to that. My daughter went to Tuskegee University in Alabama. Her sophomore year there, I went down to their homecoming. After the homecoming, she has cousins there in Montgomery, which is 40 miles south of Tuskegee. And we went down for dinner that night, and I was taking her back to the campus about 11 o'clock that night. And we got to the freeway and returned on the freeway going to Tuskegee. On the opposite side of the freeway, there were 4 lanes, because I don't know if you've been to the Southern Beltline. We got 4-lane highways, all three, and you can see for miles. And there was 4 lanes, and there was back-to-back traffic in those 4 lanes coming at me. I'd never seen anything like that. And I asked my daughter, I said, what is all this traffic? She said, they are from Auburn, which is further down the road, 10 miles further down the other side of Tuskegee. Okay. And it was their alums that had left Auburn going back home. And to watch that procession of traffic, Auburn alums coming at me, I came back and I told our Prairie View people, and I've told every year I use that as an example. Bumper to bumper traffic for 40 miles. Auburn graduates going back home after their homecoming game.
Okay.
That's the kind of response we must get from our alums.
Okay.
Whereas we support the all of the inner tentacles, and the greatest ambassador for any university is your football program. There's no question about that. But you have to support it, and you have to go and you have to be there all the time. Just like all the alums, not only just here in the Houston area, but in every sector of the state of Texas, we must come back for homecoming, for our classic games. We must support our programs, because if we don't support our programs, nobody else is going to support them. We have to be proud of our heritage, proud of our institutions, and we must step forward with our dollars and with our persons. We have to be there. You can't just send people a check. You have to go and you have to be a part of the institution through your National Alumni Association.